any way, shape, or form. So today's training is entitled 7 Ways to Stop Sabotaging Your Own Progress, right? So note to yourself, okay? Stop sabotaging yourself. So what is the idea behind this? Well, a lot of times we start our day well, right? We get up in the morning and kind of got an idea. This is what I'm going to do today, and these are the things I'm going to accomplish, and my goals, and whatever. But then we end the day not so well, right? We kind of end the day in oh, I did what I had to do, or maybe I didn't get through it, but let's leave everything for tomorrow. And so, how we spend those last few hours of the day can actually affect and it can sabotage our own success, right? And it was the same for me. I mean, for years, I would do that. I would completely sabotage and ruin those hours in the night, right? Before you go to bed, it's just like, I did what I had to do. Now I deserve some rest time. I deserve some me time. I'm not going to try and even worry about my success in the evening, right? And what would happen is I would wake up and have extremely productive mornings, but then I would waste the second half of the day completely, right? So eventually I learned this: how you spend the last few hours of your day really determines how successful you will be. So getting my evenings right changed everything, right? Most goal oriented people will spend the first half of their day really well, okay? But the second half is usually just pure self sabotage. So the second half of your day, however, will determine how you recover, what your subconscious mind is focusing on, how confident you're going to be the next day, your relationships, right? And so that's the second half of your day, or the 6 or 8 or so waking hours before you go to bed, is actually more critical than the first half of the day. So here's some ways that you can really change that for yourself. Okay. So first point is what we call mastering the last 3 turns. Now this comes from Billy Kidd. He was a gold medal skier. Okay. One of the best ski instructors ever. And he would talk about and teach that the last 3 turns of a ski run are actually the most important. Okay, it's good to finish or to start well, but you got to finish well, right? Those last 3 turns are the most critical. Okay, because most people would think, no, 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 how you start out, how you get out of the gate and everything is the most important. But but because that's where you start your momentum, right? That's where you really go. But the reason that the last 3 turns of your ski run are the most important is that that's when people aren't even thinking about skiing at that point. There's, they're actually thinking about sloppily getting out of their skis and onto the chairlift, right? That's what you're thinking about when you get to the end. Those 3 turns is where you create separation from the average. Those 3 turns is where you create powerful change. So the last 3 turns of your day will create a subconscious loop. And while you're asleep, your subconscious mind is going to still work, right? And it's working on whatever you were thinking about right before you went to bed. So this is important. This is how you really start getting into the mode of, okay, I need to be doing stuff in the evening to prepare for the next day. The other thing is creating that work-life barrier. Okay, it's funny, like this little picture here. It's always Monday morning somewhere, right? Who said that? The annoying startup CEO. Okay, so but no, we don't want to be that in that mentality. Our behaviors are linked to our environment. Okay, so if we work from home, which a lot of people do now, you may be used to transferring work habits into your home life, and the line may be increasingly blurred and messy, right? But we don't want to do that. We want to turn off from work mode when we're at home, right? Or at least when we're, doing home stuff. Okay. We want to go into a different state. So whether you work away from home or at home, you just have to kind of show up differently, right? We have to choose that. We can actually even shift our identity through that mindset. So you can do this by creating that psychological barrier between your work and your home. And this is the end of work routine. Okay, so when we're done with work, we're done. At the end of your workday, pull out your journal, reflect on all the things that you accomplished, write down, maybe 1 to 3 things that you accomplished during work that day, and then write down another 1 to 3 things that you're going to start to work on as soon as you start work the next day. That way, you can mentally turn off. You can say, I'm out, right? I'm done. I'm not doing work anymore. Now I can be focused on family and fun and recovery, right? Because that we totally need that. We got to have the recovery, otherwise we're going to burn out. Okay. Now the other thing is we want to replace the negative triggers too, right? So we a lot of us have them. We have negative triggers all throughout the house. Okay. When we get home from work, they're everywhere. So there's food that we don't necessarily want to eat, right? Because my wife and kids eat a lot of food that isn't in alignment, maybe with what I'm trying to do, trying to lose weight or something. So if I'm not aware of those triggers, I'm going to go home and I'm going to start eating some of that junk food, right? And this will create a huge downward spiral of negative momentum for me. And I see it. It's sad, but it's true. You fall for it, right? You see it there. It's like, oh, okay, one's not going to hurt. So you got to know your triggers, and you got to decide, okay, what is it in your home that is actually triggering you away from your goals? Recognizing those triggers can create support and then create support around them. So, for example, for those that have ever done any kind of a 12-step process or the Alcoholics Anonymous or whatever, one of the things that's really important is having a sponsor, and that's somebody who will support you on your path to recovery, right? Because it's really hard to overcome addiction alone, right? No matter what kind of addiction it is, it could just be overeating, right? It could be, not exercising. Whatever it is, it's really helpful to have a sponsor or somebody, that's going to be there, maybe doing it together with you, right? That can, you can remind each other. But to overcome self-sabotaging, you can't do that alone either. You got to have a sponsor. So right now, for me, it's my family, right? My family is my sponsor. They know my goals. They know what I want to do. And because of that, they can support me. They know what I want, what's clear to me, and what I'm trying to accomplish. So they'll set me on task. It's funny. My oldest daughter, she's actually the one that really, she gets after me if she sees me cheating, right? She's like, nope, you already had a chocolate, no more, and because she knows what my goal is, she knows what I'm trying to do, and she'll remind me, oh, aren't you supposed to be, working on this or that? So it's good, it's good. And then I help her, she's in school right now, and I'm like, hey, did you get your homework done, right? So anyway, so we kind of keep each other in line, right? And that's always important. Okay, then the other thing is we're going to create new rules that we can use to fight against some of that stuff, right? So I love the quote from Michael Jordan where he said, "Once I made a decision, I never thought about it again because I decided already." Right? That's his point. So when you're going into a new situation, you got to know what's non-negotiable, or else the situation's going to beat you. So psychological research has found over and over that situations are more powerful than people. Okay, think about that. Situations are more powerful than people. More specifically, situations are more powerful than undecided people. Okay. So if you've decided to paraphrase that quote, once you make a decision, you never have to think about it again. Once you've identified the triggers, you're going to create new rules to actually manage them. Your cell phone can be a big trigger, right? So if you're working and or when you're recovering, you got to have some quality rules for where your cell phone is, and it probably shouldn't be around your body, right? It's so hard, I know, especially nowadays, to separate yourself from the phone, right? Like it's like, oh, where's my phone? It's not my pocket, right? But if you're really trying to have some quality time with the family, right? One of the things that we do is we play board games or card games. Some almost every evening, actually, just to spend some quality time together as a family. And one of the rules is put your phone away, hide it, right? Because we don't want the phone distracting somebody right in the middle of the game. But or at least have it on airplane mode, right? Have it so that no messages are coming in, no alerts are coming in, that kind of stuff, right? Now, obviously you're going to be using your phone certain times for specific purposes, but you've got to create different rules for different environments depending on what you're doing. Okay, so that way oh, okay, I'm having quality time with the family right now. Created the rule. I already thought about. I already know I'm not going to have phone around when I'm doing this. Okay. Now, you're also going to want to plan for failure because failure is inevitable, right? We know there's always going to be failures every single day. And so you can't just ignore it. You can't just say, oh, everything's perfect all the time. No, we know we're going to fail. So what do we do? Okay. In psychology, they actually call it implementation intentions, right? So it's actually called that's another word for failure planning. It's planning to fail so that you can ultimately succeed. We know we're going to fail. So we create those rules, okay? And the rules don't make the temptations go away. No, the rule is what you do when you succeed. So when I go home, I'm going to intermittent fast, for example, right? For those that have done intermittent fasting, okay, that's one of your rules that you set. So the implementation intention is what you do when you're about to fail, right? So when I get home, I walk in the kitchen and I feel like I'm going to drink some juice, right? But I'm trying to do the intermittent fasting or at least reduce calories. Then you have a rule that you're going to do, right? Which means when I feel like doing X, I'm going to do Y. So in this case, every time I walk in the kitchen and I want to drink some juice, instead, I'm going to drink a cup of water and do 20 push ups. That's my rule. And following the quote from Michael Jordan, I don't even have to think about it because I already decided. I already made that decision. So I come in, I'm feeling up, I'm hungry, I think I'm just going to cheat, right? But I already know what I'm going to do. When I'm feeling that, it's go drink some water, do 20 push ups real quick, right? Because it's a reaction. Instead of falling into the failure, I'm going to do the other thing I already decided on. Or every time I open my phone to check my work email when I'm at home, I shouldn't be, right? Instead of doing that, I'm going to shoot a text to my mom and say, hi, I love you, right? If I feel that urge to look at my work email, no, 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 no. I already know. I already decided what I'm going to do. I'm going to send a text to my mom instead. Whatever it is, plan out what you're going to do realistically, that you're going to get, that what you're about to give into your environment. So if you do that, then you protect yourself, right? You've decided to do it beforehand, and you already have a response for when you think you might give into temptation. Then the other thing that's super important is measuring progress, not ideals. Right? A lot of times we get frustrated or we think we're not achieving our goals and stuff because we're measuring against the ideal point, what we think the result should be versus the starting point versus measuring the progress we've made. Right? When I'm learning Japanese, and I talked to my friend Junichi, who's Japanese, and he says stuff, and I go, I didn't understand him completely, and so I judge myself. And, you're not learning Japanese fast enough, and stuff. That's wrong. What I have to do is measure how far I've come and realize, oh wait, he used this word and that word that I did understand. I'm starting to get it, right? So you measure from your starting point, not from where you want to be. So Dan Sullivan said the way to measure your progress is actually backwards. Okay, it's backwards against where you started, not against your ideal. So if we can do that, if we can regularly take time to take stock of your life and give yourself huge celebrations for the gain or your progress, right? Instead of punishing yourself for not having achieved the goal yet, that will keep you motivated. So if you give yourself a huge pat on the back for just those small or even big gains that you're making, you're going to be a lot happier. BJ Fogg, who was a Stanford psychologist, talks about that celebration. There's a lot of research that celebrating those small wins is how you deeply embed new habits, right? So at the very end of your day, have a little closing routine where you celebrate what you accomplished that day. Don't beat yourself up for what you didn't. And then finally, number 7 is become a finisher, because we all know that it's one thing to start, like we talked about with the skiing, right? Get out of the gate, do it and everything, but you really have to follow through. You have to finish because success, if you're not getting through the challenges, if you're just kind of, then yeah, that's not a winner. That's not a champion. Usain Bolt, right? We all know who that is, fastest runner in the world. He said, there are better starters than me, but I'm a strong finisher. And that's what it's all about. A lot of people can start things, few people actually finish them. Anyone can start writing a book, but how many can finish? Anyone can start training for a marathon, but how many actually finish the marathon? If you really want to win the day, close your day. The better you get at finishing your day, the better you'll get at finishing everything in life because you're setting the tone, the mindset, and the identity that you're a finisher. Finishing is how you succeed. So if you're not finishing strong at night, I promise you, you're not succeeding as much as you would be in your mornings. Finish powerfully so you can watch yourself learn to finish more and more things. So I love that. I've started to implement that in my life. I love to finish the night, with a Japanese lesson or, just think, instead of having a snack, I'll drink a whole glass of water before bed or whatever. I love to do that, right? And think about, okay, what I'm going to do tomorrow. I started to do that as a habit now in the evening instead of just take it. Obviously, you got to relax and spend time with the family and everything. But my closing moments, right before going to bed and stuff, is about planning. It's about continuing that learning process and making sure my next day is going to be super successful. So hopefully that's helpful for you guys. To not sabotage yourself, to take advantage of the evening so that your subconscious can work throughout the night and so you can wake up ready to go and take on the day and have the most success possible. So with that, we'll let you get back to your Saturdays. Thanks so much for jumping on with me today. Again, we'll be back together 2 weeks from today with some more training, and we'll just keep plugging along with our.
We're putting a tool over on the team page about finishing 2024 and planning for 2025. Fits right with what you just talked about.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks, Juan. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk soon. See you in a couple weeks.